My name is Fonda Marshall. I'm 29 years old, and on my wedding day I saw my father standing alone in a hallway. No chair, no table, no place for him to sit, not because we ran out of seats, not because of a mistake, but because someone decided he didn't belong in the front. Table 1, right in front of everyone, was where my parents were supposed to sit. That was the plan. That was what I approved. But when I looked again, their names were gone. Moved all the way to table 14, the last table in the room, right next to the kitchen door, right next to a trash can. And when I asked my fiancé why, he said something about my father that broke something inside me. I was still wearing my wedding dress. 200 guests were waiting outside. Music was ready. Food was ready. Everything looked perfect. But in that moment, I had to make a choice. What he said next, what I did after that, and how everything ended. That's what I'm going to tell you. But first, only if this story feels real to you. Take a second to like the video and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always read the comments. Now let me take you back to the morning of June 14th. The last morning I woke up as Garrett Whitfield's fiancé. I grew up in a small town called Millfield, Ohio, about 8,000 people. It's the kind of place where people know your name before you say it, where the same cashier has worked at the same store for 10 years, where neighbors wave even if they don't know you well. My house was on Birch Lane, small, 2 bedrooms, old paint, but it was ours. My dad bought that house the year I was born, and he spent 22 years paying it off. On my 16th birthday, he made the last payment, and that night he took me and my mom to Dairy Queen to celebrate. No big party, no fancy dinner, just ice cream, and a smile I'll never forget. That's the kind of man he is. My dad, Dave Marshall, is a plumber. Same job, same company, for 35 years. He had one pair of work boots. When they broke, he fixed them again and again and again and again instead of buying new ones. Around year 20, his knees started hurting. Around year 30, his back did too. But when I was growing up, he never missed a single day of work, not once. He would come home every evening at 6, wash his hands with that strong orange soap, the one that smells like metal and citrus, then sit down next to me and ask, "What did you learn today?" Not did you do your homework, not did you behave, just what did you learn? Like it mattered, like I mattered. My mom, Linda, worked at the school cafeteria. She served food to hundreds of kids every day. But somehow, she knew all of them by name. She knew who had allergies, who didn't like milk, and who came to school hungry. Those kids always got a little extra. Always. We didn't have much money. I wore clothes from thrift stores. My room shared a wall with a loud water heater, and sometimes you could hear it all night. But I never felt poor, not once. Because our house was warm, there was always food, and my parents never made me feel like I was missing anything. I studied hard, got a scholarship, took student loans, and became a nurse practitioner. I worked at a small clinic, nothing fancy, but it mattered. I paid off my loans by the time I was 28. Step by step, I built my life. But the foundation, that came from my parents. Everything I am started with them, and I truly believed that a family like that was enough for anyone. I was wrong. I met Garrett Whitfield on a Tuesday in October, 2 years before the wedding. His father came into the clinic for a checkup. Garrett came with him. He was standing near the front desk when I walked in, tall, well-dressed, confident. The kind of confidence that makes people look twice. He smiled at me, and I smiled back. We went on our first date that Friday, then another one the next week, then another, and another, and a mother. And before I knew it, we were seeing each other all the time. Garrett was different from anyone I had dated before. He opened doors, pulled out chairs, listened when I talked. He took me to places I had never been before. One time, he took me to a French restaurant in Columbus. The napkins were so thick, they felt heavier than my coat. I didn't understand half the menu, but he did. He always did. His world was very different from mine. Garrett's family had money, not just money. Old money, the kind that stays in a family for generations. They owned buildings, land, businesses. Their name was everywhere. Big house, country club membership, connections with everyone important. His father ran the company. Garrett was already part of it, and his mother, Constance Whitfield, ran everything else. Events, charity boards, social circles. She didn't need to raise her voice to control a room. She just walked in, and people paid attention. The first time I met her, she looked at me for a few seconds, like she was trying to understand something. Then she said, "A community clinic, how interesting." She smiled, but it didn't feel warm. It felt like a test. Later that night, she mentioned Garrett's ex-girlfriend, a doctor's daughter. Very suitable, she said. I told myself it didn't matter, that she was just different, that people like her talk that way. Garrett squeezed my hand under the table. "She'll warm up," he whispered. She didn't. But by then, I was already in love. And love has a way of making you ignore things you shouldn't ignore. Garrett proposed 14 months later. Private room, candles, soft music, perfect moment. His mother was in the same restaurant. He said it was a coincidence. I believed him because I wanted to. Because I loved the man who brought me soup when I was sick, who drove 40 minutes just to see me, who told me my parents were good people, who said he couldn't wait to call my dad, Dad. So, I said yes. And that's when everything started to change, slowly, quietly, but clearly. After I said yes, the wedding planning started, and that's when things began to shift. Not all at once, not in a way that felt obvious, but slowly, like something moving under the surface. Garrett's mother, Constance, took control. At first, it seemed helpful. She suggested a venue, not the small church my parents loved, but the country club. Big, beautiful, expensive. I hesitated, but Garrett said, "Let her handle this. She knows how these things work." So I agreed. Then she chose the wedding planner, then the flowers, then the menu, then the guest list started growing. Every time I tried to say something, Garrett would gently stop me. "Let her have this one. It's just one decision. After the wedding, it's just us. Our life, our rules." And every time it sounded reasonable. It sounded smart. Pick your battles, right? That's what I told myself. Let the small things go. Save your energy for the big ones. But what I didn't understand then was those small things weren't small. They were practice. Practice for how much I was willing to accept. Practice for how far they could go. And I kept giving in, little by little. Until one day, there was nothing left that was mine. June 14th, 1600 morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom. Same ceiling, same curtains my mom had sewn years ago, same quiet feeling. For a moment, everything felt normal, peaceful. My wedding dress was hanging on the closet door, simple, elegant, mine. That was the one thing I didn't let anyone else choose. I sat on the edge of the bed and just looked at it, tried to feel excited, tried to feel ready, but something felt off. I couldn't explain it, so I ignored it, got up, got dressed, and by 10 a.m., I was at the country club. Everything looked perfect, exactly how you'd imagine a wedding. Flowers everywhere, soft music playing, tables covered in white and gold, glasses shining under the lights. 200 guests expected, half his, half mine. At least, that's what I thought. But even then, something didn't feel right. His guests were seated in the front, close to the stage, close to the dance floor. The best view. My guests were further back, closer to the walls, near the exits. I noticed it, but I told myself, it's just numbers, just how it worked out, just logistics. I told myself I was overthinking. I wasn't. After the ceremony, everyone moved to the cocktail area, laughing, talking, drinks in their hands, music playing, but I slipped away for a moment. I wanted to see the reception room. Alone. One last look before everything started. Before it all became real. The room was quiet, empty, perfect. I walked slowly between the tables, looking at the details. The plates, the flowers, the candles. Then I reached table 1, the main table, right in front of the dance floor, where the most important people sit, where my parents were supposed to be. I picked up the first name card, then the second, then the third. All Whitfields, all their people. I frowned, checked again. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe there was another section. I moved to table 2, then 5, then 10. Still nothing. My chest started to tighten. I kept walking. Faster now. Table 12. Table 13. And then, I saw it. Table 14. And then very back, right next to the kitchen door, I could hear dishes crashing behind it. Loud, constant. A trash can sitting just a few feet away. Different chairs. Cheap ones. Not matching the rest of the room. The lighting was dim. No chandelier, no decoration, and on that table, 2 name cards, Dave Marshall, Linda Marshall. I just stood there, staring at those names, sitting next to a trash can, at my wedding. For a moment, my mind went blank, like it refused to understand what I was seeing. Then slowly, it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This was done on purpose. I turned around and walked quickly. I needed to find Garrett because I still believed he didn't know, that he would fix it, that he would see this and say, "This isn't right." I found him in the groomsman's room, standing in front of a mirror, fixing his cufflinks, calm, relaxed, like everything was perfect, like nothing was wrong. "Who moved my parents?" My voice came out sharper than I expected. He didn't look at me right away, just kept adjusting his sleeve. Then he said, "Mom changed some seating this morning." Just like that. Like he was talking about flowers, or music, or napkins. "They don't have seats at the front, Garrett." "They do," he said calmly. "They're at table 14. Table 14. Table 14. He said it so easily, like it didn't mean anything. "That table is next to the kitchen." No answer. "There's a trash can right next to it." He sighed. That slow, tired sigh people make when they think you're being difficult. "Fonda, we have 200 guests out there. Can we not do this right now? Not do this?" I felt something twist in my chest. "When do you want to do it?" I asked. asked. After they've already sat there for hours? He finally turned to look at me, face calm, controlled, like he had already decided how this would go. Mom has her reasons. I stared at him. What reasons could possibly make this okay? He hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. The Hendersons and the Porters are sitting at table 1, he said. They're important. Important. The word hung in the air. He didn't say the rest, but he didn't need to. More important than my parents. He stepped closer, put his hand gently on my arm. Soft voice, careful tone. Baby, you're stressed. It's your wedding day. Let's just get through dinner. I'll talk to Mom tomorrow. Tomorrow. That word again. Everything was always tomorrow. After the event. After the moment passed. After it was too late. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Waiting for something. Anything. Guilt. Anger. Discomfort. But there was nothing. He knew. He had known. Maybe since that morning. Maybe longer. And he still stood there, fixing his cufflinks. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just turned around and walked out. Because something inside me had started to change, I walked out of the room. No shouting, no tears, just quiet. But inside, something had already started to break. On my way down the hallway, I passed the welcome table. Everything was neatly arranged. Programs stacked in perfect lines. Thick paper, gold lettering, carefully designed. I picked one up, opened it. At this time, we thank our families. I read the names, his family, his relatives, his connections, page after page, name after name, important people, recognized people, respected people. I flipped the page, looked again. My parents weren't there, not once, not even a mention. 3 weeks earlier, I had approved this. I had written a line myself. With love to Dave and Linda Marshall, whose sacrifices made this day possible. I remembered typing it, reading it twice, making sure it was perfect. Now, it was gone, deleted. Like they were never part of this. Like, they didn't matter. And suddenly, this wasn't just about a table anymore. I found Margot near the bridesmaid's room. She was fixing her lipstick, calm, focused. She looked at me once and immediately put it down. What happened? I told her everything. Fast, clear, no pauses. The table, the program, Garrett's response, all of it. She didn't interrupt, didn't react right away, just listened. When I finished, she looked at me and asked, "What do you want to do?" I shook my head slightly. "I don't know yet," she nodded. "Okay, what do you need from me?" "Stay close," I said. "I'm here." That was it. No judgment, no pressure, just support. 6 months ago, she had warned me, gently, just once. Then she never brought it up again, because she respected my choices, even the wrong ones. That's why I trusted her, more than anyone else in that building. I took a breath, then another. There was one more thing I needed, one more answer. I turned back toward the groomsmen's room. I wasn't trying to listen. I just wanted to talk again, one last time. But when I got close, the door was slightly open, and I heard voices. Constance. Her voice was calm, controlled, sharp. "Garrett, look at her father." A pause. "That suit is at least 15 years old. And her mother." Another pause. "Did she sew that dress herself?" A quiet laugh. "They look poor." My chest tightened. I couldn't move. Then Garrett's voice. Lower, quieter, but clear. "I know." 2 words. That was all it took. "The Hendersons are sitting right there," he continued. "And the Porters. These are the people who matter." Silence. Then Constance again. "Exactly." Another pause. "The Marshalls are fine in the back," Garrett said. "It's more appropriate." More appropriate. The words hit harder than anything else. I leaned against the wall, because suddenly my legs didn't feel steady. Then Constance spoke again, soft, certain. "You should have listened to me from the beginning. She doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong. Not my parents. Me." Everything inside me went still. Not panic, not confusion. Something else. Clarity. The kind of clarity that comes right before everything changes. I stepped back from the door, took one breath, then I pushed it open. Both of them turned. Constance first. Her expression changed for a second. Then she smiled. Perfect. Polished. "Fonda, sweetheart, you look beautiful." I heard everything. The room went quiet. Garrett's jaw tightened. "Heard what?" he asked. I looked straight at him. "Dad looks poor. Mom made her own dress. They don't belong at the front." I paused. What part did I misunderstand? Constance stepped forward, hands together, controlled, careful. "Fonda, this is just a seating issue. You called my father a plumber like it was something bad." "I didn't mean." "You called my mother a lunch lady, like she should be ashamed." She stopped talking. For the first time, she didn't have an answer. I turned to Garrett. "And you agreed." His voice stayed calm, too calm. "You're emotional right now. It's your wedding day." And that's when I knew. This wasn't stress. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was who he was. "I've never been more clear," I said. Constance looked at him. A silent message. Fix this. Handle it. Let's not ruin today, Garrett said. I'm not ruining anything, I replied. You already did. And I walked out. The hallway felt longer this time. Quieter. He didn't follow me, not even one step, and that told me everything. I wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. I was trying to decide if I was still going to walk into that room. Margot was exactly where I left her, leaning against the wall, watching, waiting. Tell me. So I did. Every word. Exactly how they said it. No softening. No skipping. When I finished, she was quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, "What are you thinking?" I looked at her. "I don't think I can do this." She nodded once. No surprise. No panic. "Okay," she said. "Then you need to know something." Her tone changed. Serious now. "The ceremony is done, but the marriage isn't legal yet." I blinked. "What? The license?" she said. "You haven't signed it." I stared at her. "The plan was to sign it after dinner, remember?" I remembered. Constance had insisted on it, said it would be a special moment. "So legally," I said slowly. "You're not married," Margot finished. "Not yet." Silence. "No signature," she added. "No marriage. No divorce. No befores. No mess. You can walk away." Walk away. Just like that. I took a slow breath. "How long do I have?" "As long as you don't sign," she said. She paused. "But once the dinner starts, once the pressure builds," she looked me in the eyes, "it gets harder." I nodded. "Then I decide now." She placed her hand on my arm. Firm, steady. "I'm with you, no matter what." I turned and started walking, not toward the front, not toward the stage, but toward the back of the room, toward table 14. I walked toward the back of the room, toward table 14. Each step felt heavier than the last. The music was playing. People were laughing, glasses clinking. Everything looked normal, perfect. If you didn't know where to look, my parents were already sitting there. My dad sat straight, hands on his knees, the way he always sits when he's uncomfortable but doesn't want anyone to notice. His jacket was buttoned, tie straight, shoes polished. I could tell he had taken time that morning, made sure everything looked right. My mom sat beside him, fixing a small loose thread on her sleeve, trying to make it look neat. Perfect. The kitchen door behind them swung open. A loud crash of dishes. Hot air rushed out. My mom flinched, just a little. My dad didn't move. When he saw me, he smiled. "Hey, sweetheart, you look beautiful." That almost broke me. "Dad, I'm so sorry." He raised his hand gently. "Don't. I can sit anywhere," he said. "This is your day. Your day." Like this didn't matter. Like he didn't matter. My mom reached for my hand. "Don't make trouble because of us," she said softly. And that's when something inside me locked into place. I looked at them, really looked at them. These were the people who raised me, who worked their whole lives, who gave me everything they had, and they were sitting here, next to a trash can, at their daughter's wedding, because someone thought they weren't good enough. And worse, because I allowed it. "Stay here," I said quietly. They both looked at me. "I'll be right back." I stood there for one more second, then I turned and walked toward the main room. Guests were taking their seats, talking, laughing. The host stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the families." He gestured toward table 1. The Whitfields stood up, smiling, confident, exactly where they were supposed to be. Applause filled the room. Then, nothing. No mention of my parents, not even their names, like they weren't there, like they didn't exist. I felt something rise inside me. Hot, sharp. Across the room, I saw Patricia, my supervisor from the clinic. She was holding a plate. She stopped near table 14, looked at the chairs, looked at the kitchen door, looked at my father, then she turned and walked straight toward me. "Fonda," she said quietly. I nodded. "I know. That man fixed my house when my pipes burst," she said. "He refused extra money." "I know. So why is he sitting next to a trash can at his daughter's wedding?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't have one anymore. People were starting to notice. Whispers, glances, confusion. The perfect image was starting to crack. Then I saw Constance. She was walking past table 14, holding a glass of champagne, laughing with a friend. She slowed down, looked at my mother, at her dress, at the loose thread, then leaned toward her friend and said, just loud enough to be heard, "Someone should have bought her a proper dress." A small sip of her drink. "But I suppose you have to know your place." My mother froze. Her hand stopped moving. Her eyes dropped. My dad reached under the table and held her hand. He didn't say anything. He just held it. And in that moment, I saw something I had never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, shame. My father ashamed. Because of where he was sitting. Because of how someone else saw him. That was it. I was done. Completely, irreversibly done. I turned, found Garrett near the dance floor. I grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. Your mother just humiliated mine. What did she say? He asked. Know your place. He rubbed his forehead. Annoyed, tired. Fonda, no. I cut him off. Go over there and fix it. He looked across the room, at his mother, at the guests, at the image, then back at me. I'm not making a scene. That was it. Then whisper, I said. I don't care how you do it. Just fix it. He straightened his jacket, took a breath, and said the one thing that ended everything. Your parents will be fine. They're used to this. Used to this. Like being disrespected was normal. Like it was expected. Like it didn't matter. He turned around, walked back to table 1, sat down, picked up his drink, and that was his choice. He chose the table. He chose the room. He chose the room. He chose them. So now, it was my turn. I walked back to table 14, and I sat down, right between my parents. My mom looked at me confused. Sweetheart, you should be up front. My family is here, I said. So I'm here. My dad looked at me carefully. He knew that look. Fonda, he said quietly, be careful. I'm not doing this for you, I said. I'm doing this for me. Across the room, Margot was watching. I met her eyes, gave a small nod. She nodded back, reached into her bag, stood up. Everything became clear. I took a deep breath. Then I stood up and started walking. From table 14 to the stage. The walk from table 14 to the stage was not long, maybe 60 feet, but it felt like the longest walk of my life. My heels clicked against the floor, slow, steady, one step at a time. At first, only a few people noticed, then more, then more. The conversation started fading, like someone slowly turning the volume down. By the time I reached the stage, the room was almost silent. The host was still talking, telling some story about Garrett, smiling, laughing. Then he saw me, stopped mid-sentence. The bride. A few people clapped, confused, polite. I reached for the microphone. He handed it to me without a word. I turned, faced the room. 200 people, all watching, all waiting. At table 1, Constance sat perfectly still, a glass of champagne in her hand. Garrett next to her, eyes locked on me. I adjusted the microphone, took one breath. Thank you all for being here today. My voice didn't shake. I've worked in emergency rooms. I know how to stay calm when everything is falling apart. I know you came here to celebrate a wedding. A pause. But before anything else, I need to tell you the truth. The room went completely still. I want everyone to look at table 14. You could feel it, that shift. People turning, looking, trying to understand. 200 eyes moved to the back of the room, found my parents, sitting there, next to the kitchen door, next to a trash can. I waited. Let them see it, really see it. Confusion came first, then recognition, then something heavier. I want you to remember that image, I said, because earlier today, my parents were supposed to be sitting at table 1. I turned slightly, pointed toward the front. That was the plan I approved. Silence. This morning, that changed. I let the words settle. This morning, someone came into this room and moved my parents from the main table to the last table in the room. A few gasps, soft, sharp. I looked straight at Constance. That person was Constance Whitfield. Every head at table 1 turned toward her. She didn't move, but her face changed, just a little. When I asked my fiancé about it, he told me not to make a scene. People shifted in their seats, and when I heard him speak privately, I paused, looked at Garrett. He said, the Marshalls are fine in the back. A ripple moved through the room. He said, the Hendersons and the Porters are more important. One man at table 1 slowly leaned back in his chair, creating distance. His wife covered her mouth. Garrett stood up suddenly. Fonda, that's not. Sit down. I didn't raise my voice, but it cut through the room. You had your chance to speak. He stood there for a second, then slowly sat back down. I turned back to the room. Let me tell you about the people at table 14. I pointed again. My father, Dave Marshall. He worked as a plumber for 35 years. He has bad knees. One good suit, the one he's wearing right now. A woman in the crowd wiped her eyes. My mother, Linda Marshall. She works in a school cafeteria. She feeds hundreds of kids every day and makes sure the hungry ones get extra. I paused. Let the silence hold. My parents gave $12,000 to this wedding. That landed. People looked down at their plates, at their drinks. That money paid for what you're eating tonight. I looked at Constance again, and they were placed next to the trash. This time, the reaction wasn't quiet. Whispers, gasps, people shifting, pulling away from table 1. I came here today to start a marriage. My voice stayed steady. A life built on respect. But I cannot marry someone who stays silent while my family is disrespected. Garrett looked down. I will not build a future where my parents are treated like an embarrassment. I reached up and removed my veil, slowly, carefully, the way my mom taught me. Even when letting something go, you do it with care. I folded it, placed it gently on the stage. I deserve better than that. My parents deserve better than that. I looked out at the room one last time. To everyone who came here for us, thank you. To my family, we're going home. Then I looked at Constance. For the Whitfields, I wish you well. A small pause. But I will never accept a life where love comes with conditions. I placed the microphone back on the stand. No slam, no drama, just done. Then I stepped off the stage and walked. Same 60 feet. Back to table 14. No one made a sound. My dad stood up immediately. My mom was crying, quietly. I hugged them both, right there, between the chairs and the kitchen door. Margot was already there, holding my coat, my bag. We're ready, she said. Of course she was. We walked together, the four of us, through the room, past the tables, past the silence. No one stopped us. No one stopped us. No one spoke. Behind me, I heard Constance's voice, sharp, breaking. She's lost her mind. And Garrett, Fonda. Wait, I didn't turn. I didn't stop. The doors opened. We stepped outside. And just like that, it was over. The door closed behind us. And for the first time that day, I could breathe. But the story didn't end there. That night, I sat at the same kitchen table I grew up with. Same chipped corner. Same worn surface. My mom made coffee, even though no one wanted it. My dad sat across from me, quiet. At 9:15 p.m., my phone rang. Margot, the license was never signed, she said. I closed my eyes. Are you sure? I confirmed it. It was never signed. Never filed. She paused. You're not married, Fonda. Not legally. Not at all. I let out a slow breath. No divorce. No legal mess. You walked away clean. Clean. That word stayed with me. Because it didn't feel clean. It felt heavy, real. 2 weeks later, I got sick. At first, I thought it was stress, but it didn't stop. So I took a test. 2 lines. Queer. I was pregnant. I stared at it for a long time. Not happy, not scared, just still. Everything had changed again. The father was the man I had just walked away from. Do I tell him? Yes. Not for him, for the child. I sent an email. 3 sentences. I'm pregnant. I'm keeping the baby. All communication goes through a lawyer. He replied fast. Come back. We can fix this. Then, you have no idea what my family can do. Then, you're making a mistake. 3 messages, 3 different tones, same person. My dad answered when his mother called. This child is a Whitfield, she said. We have the best lawyers. My dad stayed calm. My daughter has a lawyer. Talk to her. And he hung up. No fear, no hesitation. That was strength. The next few months were quiet, hard, but steady. I moved into a small apartment, close to my parents. My mom made curtains. My dad fixed things. Slowly, a new life came together. My daughter was born on a Tuesday, healthy, strong. I named her Elise. Elise Marshall, my name, my family's name. My dad held her, carefully. Like she was something sacred. Garrett sees her twice a month now, on time, every time. But things are different. There are rules, boundaries. His mother has never met her, because I said one thing. If she sees my child, she respects my family. She never agreed, so she never came. A year later, life is simple but full. Sunday dinners, same table, same home. My mom cooks. My dad tells quiet stories. My daughter laughs. And everyone at that table belongs there. No seating charts, no labels, no one pushed to the back, and no one sitting next to the trash. That's my table 1. I'm not telling you this story to tell you what to do. Everyone's life is different. But I will say this. If you are ever in a place where the people you love are treated like they don't matter, and the person beside you stays silent, that silence is your answer. My name is Fonda Marshall. I'm a nurse, a mother, a daughter, and I will never again sit at a table where my family doesn't belong. If you've ever had to stand up for your family, type table 1 in the comments and tell me, would you have done the same? And one more question. Would you have answered his messages? If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs it. And if you want more stories like this, you know what to do. Thank you for listening.